My name's Bobby, and I'm an alcoholic. And like Rob said, I was taught very first thing when I come into this fellowship that when anyone asks you of anything, you do it. Because they were here people in this fellowship were here to save me when I needed help. So I'm there to help anyone else. My sobriety date is August the 28th, 2005. And I have a home group. I used to be Chesterfield, but now I go to the Anson group in Wadesboro. We meet every Monday and Wednesday at 8 o'clock and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. And then we have some other fellowships to meet there as well, meetings. So if you're ever down in that neck of the woods, we'd be glad to have you. One of my former sponsors, told me to always start with a joke. And so I got a little joke here that some of you may have heard it before, but some may not have. I know everybody's heard of having a designated driver, right? All right. Police officer sitting outside a bar one night. He was trying to get his quota in, and he saw this guy come out of the bar, and he was just staggering along the way. He kept dropping his keys. He said, I got me one now. And he staggered a little bit along, and several people came out of the bar and left, and he kept watching that one person. He went to his truck, he unlocked his truck, and he closed the door back, dropped his keys again. Several other people had left. And finally, the guy got in his truck, cranked it up, cut it back off. Several more people had left by this time. Finally, the whole parking lot was completely empty, and the guy finally cranked it up and come out on the road. And as soon as he got out on the road, policeman got right behind him and turned the blue lights on. And he said, "What's the problem, officer?" He said, "Well, have you had a little bit to drink tonight?" He said, "Nope, I haven't had anything to drink tonight." And he said, "Well, I don't believe that. Can you walk this line?" He said, "Of course." He got out and walked the line straight, perfect. He said, "All right, can you pass the breathalyzer?" "Perfect, no problem." He said, "Well, I don't understand. I just watched you come out of that bar. I seen you drop your keys. I saw you staggering." He said, I don't understand what's going on here." He said, "Tonight I was a designated decoy." And so that's my little joke for tonight. But I was born in Anson County, across the river there, and in Wadesboro, and my parents were textile mill workers. That's where they met at. And they couldn't have been two different people in the world. I guess the old saying, opposites attract, is true, because my dad was a heavy drinker. He never admitted he was an alcoholic, so I don't have that right to admit it either. But he drank to excess till he passed out. And my mom, she never drank hardly anything. If she did, it was pretty much like a little social drinking thing. And both sides of my family were the same way. My dad's side of the family, you could probably pickle half my dad's side of the family in a pickle jar. My mom's side of the family, hardly not a problem. And so I guess I got lucky with the end of the stick, or unlucky, whichever way you want to look at it. I look at it as lucky because I get to see life on life's terms. Something some people don't get to see. But my very first remembrance of alcohol was my mom's got pictures of my baby bottles and my sippy cups and stuff like that when I was a baby. Or my dad would put beer in those, and that would be a joke for him, give him beer, it quietened him down, it made him sleep at night. And once I got a little older, it was the same thing. My mom was working in a convenience store. I decided to help her out at night and stuff. I was probably about 12, 13 years old. And so I'd stock the beer coolers. Well, I found it was kind of easy, the quart bottles, to unscrew them, drink about that much off the top of them, screw the cap back on, put them on in the window. Nobody ever knew the difference. And I got braver and braver as time got on, so I started stealing beer. It's basically theft is what I was doing. And I met my wife in 7th grade. We've been together ever since. and she has the same disease I do, so we've been through our ups and downs and seen each other at their best and worst as well, but that's her, she's got her own story on that. So, but with me, I started drinking more and more, especially once we got married. First of all, she had friends and stuff to begin with, and cousins and stuff that could buy, that was legal. We could go riding around drinking Jack Daniels and stuff like that, and we're in junior high school and 8th grade, stuff like that, and it wasn't a big problem having to get it, My dad worked on the road. My mom was working at the convenience store, so I was babysitting at nighttime, so pretty much had free reign. As I got older, like I said, when I got married, I moved out of the house then, and party was on then. I was getting drunk every night, every day. It didn't matter what time of day it was, I was getting drunk. And to the fact my dad finally succumbed to this disease from his 12th heart attack. And we were so hungover that day, it was like he had the heart attack at like 12 o'clock, I think, or 1 o'clock that day. It was like 3 o'clock before they finally got us to wake up. We were so hungover. I finally did make it to the hospital just in time to see him alive for the very last time. And that was the effects this disease had on him. It's had the same effect on me. I have health issues too. I have heart issues as well, and plus seizures and stuff like that. But I'll get to that more of that later. At the time, it was nothing. My mom decided I had a problem. I didn't see where I had a problem at the time. My mom said I had a problem. I figured my problem was my mom. And my mom decided I was going to Alcoholics Anonymous in Spartanburg. And the very first meeting there, I can only tell you just a few things about it. And I didn't attend very few meetings. I was present at the beginning of every meeting, but I attended very few meetings. I'll explain on that in a second. The very first meeting, I remember all these people were in a circle, and everyone was lying out their butts. They were all planning on what bar they were going to afterwards to get drunk. I counted every ceiling tile, about every block in the wall. It was one of those cement block buildings. And it just got nothing out of it. One of the biggest things I learned at that very first meeting was there was 2 exits. Because after that first meeting, I came in one and went out the other. My mom would always give me money to put in the basket. There was a barbecue restaurant right down the road. Very good barbecue restaurant right down the road. And I'd go in one door, I'd go out the other door, go down the road, be eating barbecue, be back in time by the time the meeting's over with, until the night that she decided to go pick up barbecue for supper before picking me up, and I was still there. And it got busted. And from then on, she decided to stay in the parking lot and wait on me until the fact she decided she finally came to the point that we were wasting both of our times. And but I had a guy come up to me at the very first meeting. He told me his name was Jerry. He was appointing himself my sponsor because I looked lost. And gave me his number, wanted my number. I gave him some number off the top of my head because red flags went off my head. This older guy's coming up to me. I'm in my younger 20s, and this guy's obviously coming on to me, and he's after something more than what I was wanting, and so I had no intentions of ever talking to this guy again. But when I honestly got serious about and hit my bottom, he was the first person I called. I still had his number, so something registered in my head somewhere to keep his number, because it was several years after that. And he has since passed on, but I learned a lot from him. He was my very first sponsor. And but I went back out, which decided to do things in my way of doing things, and I got my alcohol any way possible that I could get it. ended up doing some time in prison because of that, but it was a lesson learned. I had to learn myself, and so it was something I have to grow. I learned to grow with, and but anyway, I finally pieced together 6 months one time, and as a good alcoholic, y'all know what I did to celebrate my 6 months that I finally got together? I got drunk. I had a party for my 6 months to celebrate 6 months of sobriety. And so what good did that do? But that's the insanity of this disease. Thinking I can do the same thing over and over again and it's going to be different the next time around, but it was never different. It was always worse. So I finally hit my bottom. My marriage was coming to an end. I was working here in Rockingham. I was a night manager of a restaurant here in Rockingham. I was getting off from work, getting drunk on the way home, drinking all the way to Chesterfield, and sometimes having to turn around and come all the way back to open back up for breakfast. And don't know how I even got here home half the time. But I did it, and some days I had to look at the car or the truck to make sure there was no blood on it, and I hadn't hit anything, that there was no dents and stuff like that, because I honestly don't remember how I got there, And but anyway, my marriage was coming to an end. I was losing my job. We was actually looking into adopting a teenager, and that had fell through, and I found myself literally on the edge of a bridge ready to jump off one night. I was going to jump off the bridge in the middle of the night. It was dark below. There was no light. I figured I wouldn't see it coming, and that would be it, and I wouldn't have to worry about it. It'd all be over with, But something told me, step back. I know now that was my higher power doing for me what I was incapable of doing for myself at the time. And so I stepped back off that railing of that bridge. I cross that bridge now pretty much every day, if not every other day, and I think about that every time I cross that bridge. That's the exact place where I almost ended it all and took the cowardly way out. But I'm glad that wasn't what happened. My higher power had more in store for me. In fact, going on higher power, when I was 10 years old in Wadesboro, I got hit by a truck. 9 years old, I got hit by a truck in Wadesboro. Guy ran a red light and hit me head on. I slid several feet down the road on the back of my head to enough it buckled my skull. I got up and walked off the road. And that's my higher power doing for me what I couldn't do for me. That's him protecting me. And so I decided, my wife went to rehab, and I had to attend these classes to be able to see her in Columbia. And so I was still working. I had all intentions of stopping drinking right then, but it didn't quite work that way. I'd be not being honest with you if I told you I did, but her sobriety date is about a month off of mine, because I vowed once she came home I was not going to drink, and I haven't drinking since. So my sobriety date is essentially the date she came home from rehab. And her father was living with us, and he also had this disease. He's passed on now as well. And you can't make another alcoholic stop because you want him to. You all know that. And I couldn't make him stop, and I was too much temptation without having a program of my own at the time to try to do it myself. So I'm not trying to make excuses there, but I chose to drink with him. And so I was still working, drinking, and going to Columbia twice a week. And but I had to do what I had to do. First year, one of the things my wife and I did every year for our anniversary was we'd go down to Myrtle Beach. We'd spend a whole week down there, and we'd get completely drunk the whole week. We didn't really do much of anything else but get drunk. And we had our favorite bars. And that first year, my sobriety date is less than a week from our anniversary. We had already paid for a whole week at the beach. We went down there that first day. We stayed down there about 3 hours because when we hit down there toward the boardwalk, every one of them, our favorite bars we always frequented, was like a magnet pulling us to those bars. It was too much temptation too quick. And we lost all of our money in our hotel that week, but our sobriety meant more to us than that money at the time. So we came home, but I got involved really, honestly, in AA. And first I got the selfishness part. I left this part out. I did do the selfishness. I decided I no longer wanted to share my beer with my wife or my father-in-law, so I found the nastiest tasting beer I could find, and that's what I would drink. It didn't matter what it was, as long as they wouldn't drink it, I would drink it. And then that was no longer enough. Then I went to liquor. I found the nastiest tasting liquor that they wouldn't drink, and that's what I would drink. And that was just because I didn't want to share. Mine was mine, theirs was theirs. You don't touch mine. And that was the way it was at the time. My grandmother on my mom's side, she could drink gin, and she liked about that much gin and about that much 7-Up at Christmas time, and once a year. She'd get a little bottle of gin like that, and that'd last her like 5 years. I got that little bottle of gin like that, and I thought that, well, I'm just drinking the wrong liquor. So I got that little bottle of gin. It did me less than 5 minutes, and I was back at the ABC store looking for a bigger bottle of gin. I was drinking 100 proof peppermint schnapps was what my preferred was there. And I went to the ABC store I always went to, and he was sold out. And I was like, that many people around here drink that? He said, no, you're my only customer. And I'm like, okay. Every size he had was sold out because I done bought it all, And that should have told me I had a problem, right? But it took standing on the edge of a bridge to tell me I had a problem. But I got into AA. I got me a sponsor. I started working the steps of this program. I did 90 meetings in 90 days. Sometimes more than that. I did everything everybody told me to do. I sat back, I shut up, I listened. If it was suggested, I done it because I was tired of the way I was living. I didn't want it to live like that anymore, so I did what I had to do. I was there for another person, and there's been several times since then that I've gone back to having to do 90 and 90 again. Just because I feel myself start slipping away, not actually doing anything, but just feel like I want to get the urge, start having that stinking thinking again. And I'll have to go back and retrace my steps and start from scratch. That's step one all over again. And I have a sponsor. I've always had a sponsor. I've had 4 sponsors now since I've been in this fellowship. 3 of them's passed away. And the last one that passed away, he had passed away for like 12 hours before I got a new sponsor, because I can't trust myself to not have a sponsor. It's not that I want to go out and do something, it's just I need to be held accountable, because my best way of doing things is what got me to on that edge of that bridge ready to jump off. And I don't want that to happen again. And so today I try to work this program. Life is not all rainbows and butterflies. Like I said, I have heart problems, I have seizures. I never noticed I had them before, and different other problems, because I was always drunk, is what the doctors have told me. Because when I had my first heart attack, they told me that, you've already had 2. And I didn't know I had 2 because I stayed drunk all the time. I numbed the feeling. If it was a problem, if I had any kind of issues coming up, worry, stress, anything, I numbed the problem. I made it go away, but it only went away for right then. The next day it was 10 times worse than it was the day before. And so today I just try to do things and live life on life's terms. I go to doctors like I'm supposed to, take my medication like I'm supposed to, and live this program the way I'm expected to do. Before I came today, when Rob first called me and stuff, and today, preparing for the day, today I made sure I prayed several times today that God would speak through me what He would need y'all to hear, or that I needed to let out. And then I called my sponsor to make sure my sponsor had any words of wisdom that he wanted to share today. I've talked to him for about an hour and a half today, I think it was. And I'm grateful today that I have this program. I'm grateful that I have each one of y'all. I've met Stephen here before. I hope you don't mind me calling him out. But and it's old friends and new friends and friends that just haven't met yet. I consider everybody my family in this fellowship because that's what we are. My mom doesn't understand me. She doesn't understand why I still go to meetings every week, every other day or whatever. Why it's always we can't do nothing because AA this, AA that. That's my life. You don't want me the way I was. It's not a cure. There's no miracle cure for it. That was determined back in the 40s when the American Medical Association first classified this as a disease on the same caliber as cancer. There's no cure for it. There's only medication, and my medication is these meetings. I get what I need for my disease in these meetings, and I can't get that anywhere else. And I know I don't have that long of a story, but that's what I've got, and I appreciate y'all letting me come tonight and speak with y'all, and hope y'all have a happy Thanksgiving.